Okay, we are live, and this is my 100th episode of the Humane Mind Live. The Green New Meal. this this week has been insane. All right, I'm gonna go over the topics for this for this stream. So, did it cut off my Oh no, it just kind of scrunched them all together, so it didn't separate them out. So the topics for today's stream. Well, we started last week on the Communist Manifesto. There's just been too much stuff that's been going on this week that I wanted to talk about. So we will do part 2 of that probably next week, or there's probably not gonna be enough time to shove anything in at the end here. Dude, this is packed. So So we've got look at this copyright claim, snakes and gators, female to female, all black people look the same, from quote from Talib. I mean, not a direct quote, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Despicable Meme, ready for a Harris presidency? No. Like that, all that happened this week, and I'm like, I've been at my desk at work and just at my desk here at the apartment, just like this entire weekend, just laughing. Oh, the other thing I wanted to throw in here, but I'm not sure if we're gonna have time. Talking about the Joker. I don't know if that came out this weekend. Did you get a chance to see that, or?
Nope. Did I see it? I did see one guy's non-spoiler review, said it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. If we have time at the end, maybe not at the end. If we have time, I'll see where we are when we get through all the rest of this before we get to the Green New Meal. To maybe talk about that for 5 or so minutes. I want to do a spoiler-free discussion of that, but there's a lot of people talking about that particular film, and what they were saying I kind of see, but then I also see, like, to me, that's all a matter of perspective, because there's a lot of stuff in there that makes it look like both sides are represented. Yeah, because okay, maybe I'll elaborate on that right now and not. So spoiler free talking about the Joker. I'll just do this real quick. So I did see Joker over the weekend. Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic. Like, absolutely. Like, if he doesn't get nominated for an Oscar for this, it's an injustice.
A lot of his acting.
Yeah. So it's not just his acting. It, like, his, the way he's delivering what he's doing, and like he looks like a Christian Bale from The Machinist. Like, where his body is. You're like, what? And all throughout the film, he is contorting himself in weird positions, like, because I mean, there's a lot of scenes where he's at his apartment not wearing a shirt, and like his rib cage is exposed, and his, like, I don't know if he's sucking his stomach in the entire time, or if he's just like that through the entire filming. That seems absolutely ridiculous if that's the case. But his arm will be in an odd position, or maybe it's the camera angle, and it just looks otherworldly through the entire film. Like, the film is fantastic at making you feel just like your skin is crawling the entire film. Like, it's unsettling. That is, and listening to the director, that's exactly the vibe they were going with. The soundtrack is amazing. So, like, they had an original score going throughout the film, but they also had songs kind of interjected in there, like "Sin and the Clowns," "That's Life," and stuff like. So it's not a soundtrack like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's all kind of like, what was that, 70s era music or 80s ish. I think Guardians 1 was 70s and Guardians 2 was 80s, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't like a classic, like a themed song, but all the songs were kind of from an era-ish that fit the film perfectly. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, the soundtrack was amazing. One thing, there was one thing that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, but I'm really, I want to see, I'm going to ask you to check on this when you go and see it, and see if you hear the same thing. Because I was sitting in a theater, and there was, like, it was empty. It was a Sunday night, pretty much empty, maybe 5 people in the entire theater. And I was hearing awkward, inappropriate laughter. Like, at scenes where it doesn't make sense. and it was coming from over my right shoulder. And at one point I look over my right shoulder and I'm like, there's no seats over there. That's the aisle that you, or the entrance ramp. And I'm like, so I'm wondering if the soundtrack to the film, because they have like speakers around the theater. I'm wondering if they have like sound in the film where there's laughter thrown in there. I don't know if it was somebody in the theater that was just kind of nervous laughter sort of thing, or if that was actually deliberate. That's what I would like to know. If that was deliberate and it was kind of like a little thing the director did on top of the already amazing, like, that is brilliant. That is because it's one of those things. Like, there was a scene and I'm like, who would laugh at what just happened on film? And I look over in the direction it's coming and I'm like, there's nobody sitting in that area. There's no seats.
That makes sense. It's kind of like a Fight Club thing where you're viewing from the perspective, but there's things that just happen that don't make sense right then. It's to put you in the same mindset as who you're watching.
Yeah, and because I know most people that I that have seen the film, they went in these big crowded groups, and so that's the kind of thing that you wouldn't pick up. But I went in a mostly empty theater, and I'm like, that stuck out to me, and I was like, dude, that. If they're doing stuff like that to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible, brilliant. Absolutely, like, stroke of genius. If that is the case, I would definitely give it a higher recommendation than I'm giving. I give it about a 7.5. And it's not because it wasn't a good movie. Like that, so I'm giving all the highlight, like the acting phenomenal, the cinematography, the soundtrack and all that phenomenal. I'd give it a lower rating. Maybe I'd give it an 8. But the overall story I thought was meh. Like, pretty, like, the entire series of events I didn't find. I thought it was kind of, I was like, really? That's it? Because I know, I get why the story is kind of, doesn't have any because you mentioned Fight Club. Like, Fight Club is a 10 out of 10 for me because there's so, like, everything about that soundtrack, the cinematography, the acting, and also it just, like, messes with your head, and it's like the story is unique and interesting.
Message, visuals, cues, everything throughout it. It's just every single scene is thought out. 100%.
Yeah, and it's also something unique, and, like, for me, Joker felt a little formulaic story-wise. Everything else, like, all of the trappings make it a fantastic film, though. For me, the story was a little too by the numbers to keep me there. I got to the end of the film and felt a little like, oh, it was leading up, and that's the big lead up, and that's where it ends, because it was predictable and formulaic for me. Other people that have reviewed it and talked about it, they're talking about big reveals that they weren't expecting. I didn't watch any spoilers prior to watching the film. I listened to them today, and I was like, dude, you didn't see that coming? That was kind of like, that was pretty obvious. It was kind of like, so there's and maybe that's just me being a little too cynical and having seen too many films, but it was an interesting character study on Joker, and I am the most amazing thing about it is the fact that Warner Brothers and DC Comics greenlit this film, because based on the rest of the stuff that DC has been putting out, like, this is unheard of. This is the by far the weirdest comic book movie to come out, and I like, again, I'm surprised they said, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and do that, and I'm surprised they saw the finished product and were like, they didn't crit, like, they're like, yeah, sure, that's exactly what we're looking for. And I'm like, dude, did you not see Suicide Squad? Did you not see Justice League? That's what Warner Brothers is greenlighting. This is the direction DC should be going, because they cannot compete.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I know Jared Leto tried to get in there and make them just weird, but they seem more just gangster, not Joker. And that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just trying to put feelers out and experiment what people will watch, because DC movies have just been kind of some of them are starting to approach pretty good. I like Shazam. I thought that was really good. But, Wonder Woman was pretty good. The rest, either horrible or just watchable. Aquaman's has some good stuff. It's watchable, but...
Yeah. So if they're gonna go with if they're gonna go with the darker tone, like they tried to do with Justice League, but then they, dropped the ball, then they should go with the same tone that Joker had. Because that's... Man.
Yeah, sorry, but Justice League wasn't even a dark tone. It was like a dark...
Well, okay, so Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League. Well, Justice League kind of lightened the mood overall and started to make it more feel like a Avengers wannabe. But Man of Steel was pretty dark for a Superman movie. Batman vs. Superman tried to be dark, although it had moments of levity. It was... You're like... And then Justice League, it's like they oh, hey, everything's happy-go-lucky, but also we want to be minutes. And you're like, no, it just didn't mesh.
Yeah, that was just a really weird mix.
Yeah. So...
I don't know.
Yeah. So if they go with more of a tone like what Joker has laid, if they start that as the foundation, like because Marvel kind of had a similar thing where they've had movies that were in the Marvel universe and they had screw ups and it kind of fell apart, and what solidified it all was Iron Man, right? And then everything builds off of Iron Man from there.
Iron Man was kind of the start of current MCU.
Yes. So if that's the case, Joker should be the start of the DC universe. It's that film. If this becomes the foundation on which the rest of DC builds off its universe, the DC will stand out from Marvel, and it actually has a future. If they keep doing this...
That would be interesting, because this Joker is supposed to be, I guess, pretty realistic. Like, this could happen. It's not superhero, Batman ziplining across the city. None of that. It's just a guy that lives a kind of odd life, and a bunch of bad stuff happens that just slowly starts to drive him crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So this is another area I want to talk about, because a lot of people have been talking about the film, and okay. So I Stefan Monalou I like a lot, but his review of the movie I was kind of like, no, I think you missed the ball here. Because he kept comparing it with New York and the United States. And I'm like, this is Gotham. Gotham is not real life. The entire...
horrible city.
Yeah. Gotham is sick. There is an inherent sickness in the city, and everybody is out of their minds. And Joker is the manifestation of that. And I think that was what this film did that no other film that has depicted Joker has done before. Joker isn't what makes Gotham crazy. Gotham is what makes the Joker.
Yeah, that's just a symptom of the city.
Yes, he's the embodiment of all of the insanity of that city.
Batman comics are actually written about Gotham City, where those villains came from. Yeah, they are different symptoms because something is corrupt and rotten within the city. Yeah, I think Gotham TV show kind of nails a lot of it. Yes.
It's almost as if there is a haunting or a demonic presence over the city that everybody who goes there they show up knight in shining armor, and by the end they are Two-Face. It's like you can't enter Gotham without going crazy, and even the good guy Batman is out of his freaking mind. It's the city is infecting people with
crime. The regular crime stuff, there's mob bosses and there's crime, but there's something else, like multiple serial killers.
Which is why the League of Shadows makes sense, that they're trying to continually destroy Gotham, and Batman is like, no, it can be saved, and I'm like, dude, you're just as crazy as everybody else. You dress up like a bat, you fight crime at night, and then try to play the playboy, and like your real life is your costume. The Batman is you. Your costume is Bruce Wayne. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff about that. Like
part of the controversy that I've heard about this film. Well, most of it all came out during the first trailer. No one had any clue what the entire story was. They were just like, oh, another movie trying to advocate for a white man growing up, not feeling happy about going out, becoming a serial killer.
Okay. Yeah. So,
obviously there's going to be parallels against a guy that's crazy and just decides to go out and do a mass shooting, and a movie of a guy that's slowly being driven insane. But I non-spoiler or spoiler-free reviews I've read, that it's not like that at all. They're not advocating.
No.
They're not on the side of Joker.
You are never on the side of Joker throughout the entire film.
Maybe occasionally you start to feel some empathy, but then you're like, no.
Yeah. So that's they did an amazing job of every time you're kind of like, oh, okay, now I get it, and you're like, nope, I don't get it. Okay, all right. Every time you're kind of like, oh, okay, that. They do. Yeah, you never like you feel. He is the victim, but you never feel like, oh, there was nothing he could do. He had no choice but to become the Joker. And I'm like, no. There's plenty of times where, he goes. You're like, what? There's no amount of environment that would like, okay, yeah, because of his environment, he had to be this. And like, no, this is he chooses evil. That anybody who chooses evil, you can't view as a sympathetic, oh, I can relate to him. Like, no, you had a choice and you chose that.
But I mean, on the other societal aspect of that, why are people jumping on that? I mean, so we had a craze like this back in the early 90s when Mortal Kombat came out.
Yeah.
And parents just started hopping all over violent video games. There was another small wave during like Grand Theft Auto 4, or maybe Grand Theft Auto 5 release, or driving kids nuts, making them killers. But there has been zero correlation with any of that.
Yeah, so the number of people who play video games, the number of people who play violent video games, the number of people who watch violent movies have been ever increasing. Rock music, all of these comic books, rock music, video games, movies, all these things have been blamed at one time or another for causing people to go crazy or causing people to be violent. The entire time people have had more access to each of these, and crime overall in the U.S. has been rapidly declining. So, increasing the number of comic books, music, video games, increasing the number of violent stimuli ever. Like, now you have access to Netflix and you can go and watch anything you want. There's porn streaming. There's all kinds of things that you can do that would be people have typically blamed for violent behavior, and yet crime is going down. Now, they keep claiming mass shootings are on the rise in the U.S., and statistically, no, that's not the case. Statistically, even using their broad definition of mass shootings, because they're also including gang violence and things and like that, even with that, those are not going down as fast as other crimes and stuff like that, but those are pretty much over the last, 10, 15 years is kind of, there's an average. All other crimes seem to be going down. Mass shooting just kind of seems to be plateauing. But if they changed the definition so that it wouldn't include,
I don't know.
So their definition of mass shooting has changed, so they can't. That's what they're using as their mass shootings have been gone up. But if you use the same definition over the past 10 years, it's about.
A month ago, we had 2 mass shootings. I'll put that in quotes.
Yeah.
Like a week and after another, was it Dayton?
Yeah.
There was that cop shootout, and they started initially labeling it as a mass shootout because a couple of cops got injured, but then they changed it because it turns out the perpetrator, the guy who was shooting at the cops, was a black guy, and all terms of mass shooting disappeared.
Yeah.
The next day when the information came out. But I remember as it was happening, they were still doing the standoff. There were publications saying mass shooting. Where was that?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, but So
I think that was in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they consider that a mass shooting. So the problem is when they blur the line between an active shooter incident, an active shooter like an armed gunman going into a area and shooting as many people as possible. That's an active shooter scenario, and they keep calling that a mass shooting. And then they also lump in incidents like what you're just talking about, where it was a standoff between one guy and several officers. That's not the same incident. That's not a person going around killing indiscriminate random passerbys or people in a confined area. And yet they conflate the two as if the two are the same. They also talk about they also include school shootings where a firearm is discharged on any school property, and they lump that in there as well with these active shooter incidences. It's to bolster the numbers, but if you apply a consistent definition of any of those terms across a 10-year or 15-year period, you'll see the number of those incidents is either going down or is plateauing. That's the problem is if you change definitions halfway through, of course you're going to get different numbers. You changed your criteria. It's like when you enter different things in your search results, you'll get a different response. Do you not understand how a search engine works? Alright. So, yeah, the film is something that I think everybody should watch at least once. For me personally, like it's one of those films that you watch once, or there's several films like this for me that I watched once. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I have seen the film, but I never want to watch it again. Requiem for a Dream, Seven, and Joker. Those all fit in that category for me. Like, they are amazing films. I think everybody should watch them at least once. If you can watch it more than once, you've got a stronger stomach or stronger... They give me the heebie-jeebies.
Not only that, 7 kind of got that. Would that be like, is 8mm included in that?
Is that the Nicolas Cage one? Yes. Yeah, with Nicolas Cage and Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah. That is like...
It turns your stomach most of the movie, and you're just like, I don't know how to feel about this. I want to stop watching, but I can't. And then when you're done watching, like, I will never watch that. Or, what was that, Lord of War?
Oh, Lord of War I watched multiple times. That's a fantastic... That's like my top 5 films of all time.
Also Nicolas Cage. I don't know. For some reason, that one after, I was like...
Yeah, there's one scene in there. Yeah, there's one scene in there that I'm kind of like... Yeah.
But I just leave not liking the main characters at all. I don't want to see them ever again.
Yeah, but the entire movie overall, to me, Lord of War is a little more upbeat and has more levity into it, so I can... 7, the tone and everything, it just disgusts you outright, and you're just like, dude, there's nothing...
Okay, so kind of falls into that category.
It's kind of like, it's showing you the depths that humanity can go, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to. I'm out. So the same thing with Requiem for a Dream, because it goes terrible for everybody in the film. There is no moment of up, and you're just kind of like, this move just started off pretty bad, and just kept getting worse and worse as it went, and just, yeah. That 7, Requiem for a Dream, and Joker all fit kind of that pattern, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do more than once, but I'm glad I saw it the once, and I will recommend them to people, but I can't do it more than once. It makes your skin crawl. It makes you feel like you need to go and scrub all of your skin off in the shower and be like, whew, okay. Whew.
Yep.
All right. So, spent a little bit longer on that than planned, but yeah, so okay, back to a lighter mood and more just outright insanity. So there's the Ukraine scandal that's been going on with Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. Oh, I need to click on the thing here. All right. So Trump originally tweeted this out. He says, "Look at this photograph," and then he posts a picture of the video. Nickelback filed a copyright claim against this because look at this photograph is their song, and it was taken down. But the day this came out, dude, so this was what, October 2nd? Dude, everybody, it was exploding. It was going everywhere. It was up for, I think, a day and a half before they actually took it down.
I should have left it alone because that's been a meme for years now.
It's been a meme for years. They should have left it alone. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to pull up. Ever since this tweet went out from President Trump, their sales for their song downloads has gone up over 500%. And they did a copyright claim. You're like, dude, this is the best PR that you have had in decades.
Sounds like they're trying to pull a Metallica.
Yeah, it's like no, we don't want more money. We want to piss everybody off. All right. So and I am going to play the clip, which means I am probably going to get whatever a copyright strike on this stream. Maybe we'll see. So there are a couple of instances of this still on Twitter, but for the most part, Twitter has been going through and removing it.
That's just nonsense. I mean, I've seen this. There's tons of YouTube videos from years back.
Yeah, look at this photograph, and then there's just a picture.
Look at this graph, and he's just holding the graph. It's been a meme for years.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the original video that Trump posted.
Have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. How did our eyes get so red? And what the hell is on Joey's head?
Oh, that's best president ever.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know who put the video together. At first I thought it was Carpe Dunkum because Trump does tweet a lot of his stuff, but he was underneath the original tweet itself, saying, "Yeah, my hat's off to whoever made this." I think he actually said, "The student is now the master." Because I don't know who created the actual video itself. Maybe it was a Trump staffer, or I doubt it was Trump himself. But that.
Yeah, but nobody's buying that stuff at all.
Oh.
You hang out with not just your son, but another guy that's on the same board of the company.
Yeah, never came up that, oh, hey, are you guys on the level? Oh, I hear that there's an investigation in your company, right? What's going on there? All right.
No, this guy.
Okay, so
you might want to play some golf.
I do have a little more on the Ukraine than what most people have been talking about, because I haven't heard anybody. I haven't been listening to much of Ben Shapiro or the rest of these guys. But the one thing that's confusing to me is that a lot of people are citing, what's his name? Do you remember the Ukrainian, so the prosecutor who got let go, right? Was it, what?
Shokin?
Shokin, yeah. So Shokin was let go. His replacement is the one that people are citing, saying that, oh, there was no wrongdoing on the part of Burisma Holdings. That guy got fired and is under investigation for prosecution, or for corruption. And I'm like, dude, why is nobody talking about that? The guy who gave Burisma the green light and said, oh, no, investigation's gone. So there's a prosecutor investigating Burisma Holdings on the UK. Biden is threatening to withhold $1 billion in aid unless they fire him. They fire him. They replace him with this other guy. The other guy says, oh, no, Burisma's good. Case is dropped. All good. He's fired and is being investigated for corruption. What? The other guy who was let go, or they asked for his the guy that Biden got fired, no investigation whatsoever. They say he was corrupt. Like, that's Biden's claim. Oh, they had to let him go because he was corrupt. He wasn't doing his job.
Well, there
was
intelligence community that he was a corrupt prosecutor.
Which intelligence community? Not the Ukrainian one. Not
UK. A couple of different European countries also had the same information.
And, that is something people have been talking about. The source of all of that was our intelligence community. It didn't come from the Ukraine. It didn't come from people in the area investigating. It came from our intelligence community, and then it was circulated and spread by the UK and spread by all these other countries.
So this is the thing that's, if you're watching left stream media, it is just listen to all this junk Trump says. Obviously, there's some quid pro quo implied here. They keep saying that he was withholding $400 million, and that's why he was pressuring the president. Even though they don't want to bring up Joe Biden did the same thing for twice as much money, they just want to say, hey, he was just doing his job, but Trump wasn't. So that's kind of double standard, it seems to me, if they're both going after corruption. But if you're watching conservative outlets, Ben Shapiro seems to only be debunking or talking about talking points that are released directly from the White House or what's on mainstream media.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on a flip-flop boat saying, well, if we can prove Trump is actually just out looking for corruption and Biden thing just kind of popped up during Giuliani's investigation over the last 2 years, then that's one thing. But if he's actually is trying to investigate Biden, then that's another thing. But there is more information that has been pushed out that isn't so much mainstream media, articles in the Hill, the guy John Solomon, who has been releasing documents. So he released a document that was what do you call that? I guess it's a testimony from Shokin, but it's in front of a government panel in Ukraine.
Yeah, so it's official. Like if he was lying in that, or if they catch him, like, oh hey, something you said in here and that's not true whatsoever. Yeah, he could face jail time over that. So nothing on that guy. They have done absolutely nothing. No charges against him. And you're like, well, if this guy is corrupt, where's the investigation into him? Where is the attempt to put him in jail for corruption? None. Well, the guy who replaced him, fired and under investigation. That's what happens.
So in his official court documented statement, he says that the then Ukraine president was being pressured by CIA, by the intelligence community from the U.S. to stop the investigation, to tell Shokin to stop the investigation. So he was told 2 or 3 times by the president of Ukraine, hey, just drop it, just wrap this up, let's close it out. But he wouldn't, because he said there was actual corruption there, and he was doing his job, and he wasn't going to take pressure from the U.S. But then that's when Biden came by. So apparently this investigation was ongoing, even though Biden said it was not, and withheld $1 billion until they fired this guy. The same day, a couple hours later, fired. Let him go. Now, in his testimony, he says the president said, I'm sorry it came to this, but you're going to have to be let go, and you need to be quiet about this.
Yeah.
We don't get this $1 billion, our country is going to be hurting, so you need to do this for the benefit.
Yeah, like, at that point, you're like, kind of like, if
that's
whatever.
Direct pressure from the vice president.
Yeah, you would go down as one of the worst leaders in history if you cost your country $1 billion.
Correct. So
like Ukraine, like if you look at how much the Ukraine, like their GDP, I don't know exactly what percentage 1 billion is. Like $1 billion to the U.S. is nothing. We do like what 2-point-something trillion? No, it's 4 trillion. We do 4.1 trillion. $1 billion, whatever. We don't care. When $1 billion is like what a quarter to, or I don't remember the exact numbers. If it's possibly a tenth of your GDP, dude, that's huge. You're not going to be like, oh, well, I got to stand on principle and keep this guy. No, you're kind of like, dude, I got 6 hours to make a decision. If I don't make this decision, millions of people are out of work, or we can't afford our government program, whatever. There's so many factors that's going to impact millions of people. It's not just one guy. That's too much pressure.
So that's his official statement in the court document from Ukraine, is that he was pressured and fired directly because of Biden on an ongoing investigation, and that while he was not directly investigating Hunter's name was on his list to be questioned because he was on the board and there were other questionable guys on the board of his company. It wasn't just Hunter, so it's not like a targeted thing, but eventually it's going to be questioned about, what are you even doing here? How did you get this job?
Yeah. The other thing is, he wasn't just investigating Burisma Holdings. So this is something Giuliani has been talking about. He was also investigating other companies within the Ukraine, one of them being a George Soros-funded company. And it's like, so what makes sense to me, I don't know if anybody listening doesn't know who George Soros is, really sleazy billionaire, linked to a lot of corruption, funding Media Matters, who tried to get, they've tried to get everybody shut down at one point or another. Also sponsors Antifa and sponsors BAM, right? Was By Any Means Necessary, right?
Yeah.
Has been, giving money, like all of these groups that end up having riots or burning things, like the one bankrolling it is George Soros. And you're like, so if the Ukrainian government was looking into corruption in one of the companies he had there, so what speculation on my end, Biden may not have known about Hunter's involvement, under investigation. He may not have known directly when he was making that decision. I don't know if it was after the fact or whatever. Granted, the golf picture, I don't know what time period that's from.
Well, that is something that I kind of want to put out. As far as Biden's involvement, we can see his actions, we can see the repercussions, but we do not know what he knew.
Yeah.
And judging by what comes out of his mouth and the fact he's just sitting there bragging about having held on to $1 billion.
Yeah.
I think he was under the impression that he was trying to help fight corruption in the Ukraine. But there are other documents that have been leaked recently showing that U.S. entities pushed out fake information on Shokin to put him out in the intelligence community, not just for us, but the UN, the UK, I think Australia, a bunch of other countries that are like, whoa, this guy's crooked. They got this false information on Shokin, started putting pressure out saying, we need to get rid of this guy. So Biden thought he was doing a service. That's definitely a possibility.
Yeah,
it just leads to incompetence.
There was something else. So, I don't remember. So Hunter Biden is a member of an organization, right? He's not the. It's,
law firm.
Yeah, the law firm.
Law firm.
Yeah, that law firm. I think this was also something Solomon was linking to.
Yes.
That law firm, that after Shokin got fired, they apologized to Shokin, saying, "We know you're not corrupt. We're sorry that this happened to you," and basically acknowledging, you got fired over political.
Yeah, he said he's got documentation where they state they helped to push out the false information, and the same firm also, the day after Shokin got fired, called Ukraine to get in contact with the new attorney.
Yep.
Because they wanted to have words with him.
Yeah. Have words. And yeah.
So I still don't know Biden's full.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Granted, so a lot of the false information about Shokin can be traced back to government or U.S. intelligence agencies. And yeah, again, speculation. I don't think the CIA has been on the U.S.'s side for like 70 years. When was JFK assassinated? Yeah.
I don't know. I think they were under Obama's administration.
Well, because they're.
I think they select certain presidents that.
Well, yeah.
On their politics and what they'll allow to slide and what they can get away with, they'll support that president. They'll push out good news. They'll hide stuff that needs to be hidden. But
yeah, there's
kind of with that group, they're not on your side.
Yeah, there's a lot of mention of shadow government and deep state, and there are, to me, that's powerful figures within the FBI and the CIA that are actually manipulating things behind the scenes and getting puppet presidents in there to kind of do their, or hey, if this president steps out of line, they get the JFK treatment, and yeah, so
there is a little bit more information.
That's speculation stuff.
Green scandal thing. The reason this was even brought up is because there was supposedly a whistleblower that said, I heard Trump having a conversation. Well, actually, they were told by multiple other individuals that they overheard a conversation of Trump talking to the Ukrainian president.
Yes.
Or the whistleblower released second-hand, third-hand information. They have no direct contact. They weren't there. They didn't see the transcript, didn't hear any of the conversation. Things got a little weird because apparently now it's been found out that he went to go talk with, what is his name, Adam Schiff?
Yep, Adam Schiff.
Ended up talking to one of Adam Schiff's assistants. The assistant said, hey, you need to get a lawyer. You need to get this document fixed up. Then they went and talked to Adam Schiff after, so it's possible Adam Schiff did not have direct contact, but his staff did.
Yeah.
he tweeted out 2 weeks before this became an official complaint or official whistleblower report exactly what was on there.
Yes.
Including some of the inconsistencies that are not actually in the transcript.
Yeah.
So he was
some of the inconsistencies that he delivered as if they were from the transcript in his opening statements in that hearing.
So
I'm only gonna tell you 7 times. What?
But then they also said that Trump was trying to hide something and obstruct justice because he put this transcript on a special server in the Oval Office instead of where transcripts normally go.
What?
So you haven't heard about that?
No, I haven't heard about that.
He's been putting it on a private server that's meant for confidential documents, like highly confidential in the Oval Office.
But that's in the
something. He's been doing this since 2017 because he's had 4 different phone calls released from world leaders.
Yeah.
Not just this phone call, everyone, because he's tired of his calls and people spying on him within his own cabinet, within his own government. His secretary administrative assistant, was let go last year because she was leaking information. His own assistant was spying on him.
Yes.
So he's paranoid, obviously, and he's frustrated. You can see it anytime he's talking about what's happening within the intelligence community.
And they're going to try to compare that server to Hillary Clinton's bathroom email server.
No, I mean, it's a server that him and I think maybe, I don't know if Pompeo has access, only a very tiny...
Yeah, very tiny, but I can guarantee...
He was hiding it because there was something he's trying to cover up. But if you watch his last 2 years of phone calls, period, they're all on that server because he's tired of his info getting leaked.
Yeah.
And it still got leaked.
Well, the transcript he released himself.
The transcript wasn't leaked, but somebody overheard his phone call and reported it to this other whistleblower, and then that got reported to Schiff. So even though he's trying to put the actual transcripts and lock them up, because if you're a world leader talking to another world leader, there has to be confidentiality there.
Otherwise there's no trust. Yeah. Which
they can't trust conversations to be confidential. But if he's constantly having phone calls leaked out, that jeopardizes our communication and our international trade, our alliances. It jeopardizes a lot with the United States. It's dangerous.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this a lot longer than I'd planned. It's already almost 8 o'clock. But yeah, no, it's fine. It's just like, I've got a bunch of other stuff to get to. But so there's still more on this that we haven't talked about. The other thing, so the whistleblower, like you said, was secondhand information. That the whistleblower requirement was changed in August. The whistleblower report was filed in September. This is the Hillary Clinton where they changed the requirement for criminal negligence, and then she gets okay, so this has probably been circulating around, this rumor about the Ukraine conversation, and then they changed the memo just so that this whistleblower complaint can be filed, get on the record, the transcript is released, and now a second whistleblower has come out with more first-hand knowledge, or I guess more direct knowledge. I don't know if the actual claim is first-hand. So now they're kind of like, oh yeah, see, now we're all on the level. No, nothing to see here. The transcript hasn't changed. Why was the second whistleblower necessary? Wasn't. The information's already out there. That's the point of the whistleblower. But now there's a second one that has more direct, so you just ignore that one that had the indirect. All right, we're good. We're all covered.
Yeah. At this point, it's kind of why bother with any other whistleblower reports on that phone call. We can read the phone call.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
So one of the main reasons they said this was corrupt is because it was advocating a quid pro quo. Trump was withholding something or pressuring the Ukrainian president to do a favor. Because he would say, hey, I'd like you to do a favor for me. Look into this corruption. But he wasn't talking about Joe Biden. He was talking about the 2016 corruption.
So, yeah, that's the other thing is all of this is tied back to Barr's investigation and Giuliani's investigation into the 2016 corruption.
There are 2 mainstream publications that already released information saying the Ukrainian president and his entire cabinet had no idea the money was withheld until weeks after the phone call. So how could he be pressured when they all just assumed everything's on the up and up and didn't realize anything was withheld? They found out later.
Yeah.
So, and even if you read the transcript, you're gonna have to have a strong bias in one direction to try and pull out.
No, there's mafia language in there, didn't you?
Yeah, that's just disgusting. That Schiff.
How is Schiff still in office, man?
At the beginning of an impeachment inquiry, you don't open with a satire or a joke, even though that's what he said it was later, because everyone was writing him on it.
Yeah, they're like, that's not what it says. I got it right here. What are you reading?
Even Democrats are kind of backing up, like, why did you do that? That doesn't help us at all. You look like a liar.
Yeah. No, he is a liar. I mean, he also said that he didn't know about the whistleblower complaint prior to, even when there's, like you said, the tweet.
From his own account.
So, yeah. All right. So we'll move on to the next topic though, because this one's a little shorter. But it's one of those things. Is you have to have a bias in order to think that this is actually the case. So this is all right. So the press. So this is from Trump. Now the press is trying to sell the fact that I wanted a moat stuffed with alligators and snakes with our electrified fence and sharp spikes on top at our southern border.
Yeah. Where did they get that from?
Yeah, a joke he made previously. It's like it just got 10 feet taller. It just got, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna throw a moat with alligators and snakes. Dude, that's all hyper. Like,
well, I mean, it's the same thing like nuking a hurricane, obviously.
Like, it would take an insane person to think he was being serious about that. And you're like, that. I don't know if he ever said these words directly, but there was a lot of people joking about this sort of stuff. Because they called the wall medieval, and he talked about a moat. So they're like, he's serious. Yeah, he wants to, like, what a fool. He wants to build a wall and put a moat. What is this, medieval?
Well,
he's gonna do whatever he's going off of the Border Patrol's suggestions. If the Border Patrol suggests an alligator...
There are other countries right now doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Medieval.
Yeah, Mexico's southern border has a wall, and also Israel is protected by a wall. They're
building the second wall.
Yeah.
They're going to have like a DMZ area in between the two. Very small, but
yeah,
I mean, countries do that. That's how you protect your border. How else would you protect the border?
Like, it's something weird. Like, he posts meme of Greenland with a Trump casino on it next to tents on the beach. He posted a video where it was showing New York Times having him be president for the year, like, 4,000, and then it goes to the year infinity.
Oh, yeah, the ticker just kept going up. And then they were all saying he's trying to get rid of the term limit.
Yeah.
Because of that meme.
And he posts a video, look at this photograph, and they're like, oh, dude, he's talking about allegation moats. He's serious. Have they not caught on that he jokes around? He's not...
Yeah, I mean, he did the same thing with the Hurricane Dorian, where he put the cat with the little red laser and he's floating.
Yeah.
And he says CNN and the cat sitting on it watching the red dot while he's holding the map. This is what he does. He's been doing this since 2017.
Yeah. How they could think that everything he does is dead serious. Like, oh, he said moats and alligator. That's not parody or satire or just a joke. Nope, he's dead serious about that. What? On what planet?
Yeah, well, I mean, they harped on him for that CNN wrestling video. I mean, that's definitely not real. That's a CNN logo on some guy's head. They said that's advocating violence.
Dude, it's... Man, okay, so going back to Joker, that is another theme of the film that I think they got like, it's one of the things I haven't heard anybody talk about, but literally everybody is wearing clown masks, and it's like, oh, that's the embodiment of clown world. Okay. Good job. Like, it's kind of unintentional, or maybe intentional, but you're like, yeah, that's clown world. Welcome to it.
Well, I think Tim Pool may have brought that up after the video. He says he thinks there's a parallel between everyone in the clown masks and Antifa. And they are
yeah.
all in clown world and believe it.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything specifically stating, but he's like, yeah, it seems fairly obvious.
Yeah, so I want to say in that both sides are crazy, are presented as crazy, although I don't want to, if I say anything more, it's going to kind of go into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But the way I saw it, I saw both sides being represented and both sides being crazy. So there's people who are talking about it makes Antifa look bad. And I'm like, yeah, there's that aspect, but it doesn't make the Trump stand-in or the MAGA stand-in any better.
When has Antifa done that makes them look good?
Yeah. The way it's presented in the film, both sides look terrible. So
yeah,
it's not a pro-Trump or anti-Antifa. It's anti everything that's going on right now.
Anti-radical, extreme bipartisan. I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone's crazy. Stop it.
Yeah. All right. So there was that. So this next thing, there's a little bit that was going on about this. I think maybe Lauren Chin was talking about this a little bit in her videos. I don't know if she actually did a full video about this or this was a side topic in one of her longer streams. But, and this is something I had heard before, but this has been going around, or at least I think it's becoming more formally understood, as before it was kind of like a joke. Female to female transgender. So I think the reason this is coming, or being talked about again, is they have an official pride flag for female to female transgender. But nobody does.
No, I mean, is that a legit thing or is it a meme?
It's a legit, as in this is not somebody making fun of transgenders. This is transgender people doing this.
But
this is from the transgender community. This is not from some.
Oh, so this I haven't heard of yet. Is it female trans people wanting to be actual female? Is that what they're advocating for?
So the way, so the explanation here is a trans woman who considers herself transitioning from female to female, as she has always been female. It's the born biologically male, but they don't want to say male to female transgender because they've always been a female.
And what are they transitioning?
They are since they've always been female, they're transitioning from that female to female.
Then how is that a transition? That's what doesn't. I
don't
understand.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
And you have this feeling, or
yeah, it's like if you were
wrong body, and I can see you saying I'm transitioning from point A to point B. But if you say I've always been at point B and now I'm transitioning to point B, no, you're standing still.
Yeah. It's the if you were born a woman, why are you having surgery to remain a woman?
So
it's
all just semantic nonsense.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolute nonsense. The whole LGB is one category. That's just sexual preference. That's it. That's all that is. The rest of your life is the same as anybody else, unless you like wearing strap-on stuff out at a gay pride parade and flapping your butt cheeks around. That's a little. You probably shouldn't do that in public. But LGB, that's sexual preference. T isn't necessarily sexual preference, because there are trans women that are now lesbian because they still like women. There are trans women who are now, I guess, transitioned to hetero because they're a trans woman who likes men. So that's not a sexual preference. That's them trying to transition from one sex to another. That's a whole different category. And then the plus is all just made up nonsense. It is what people feel like that day, and it actually has nothing to do with sexual preference for the most part. I mean, they have, what is that? They say they're asexual or pansexual, and it means they don't really care who the partner is. I thought that was bisexual.
Yeah.
So it is.
Well, they had to change it to pansexual to include all of the other things that aren't considered. Yeah, that are made up.
Yeah, this is.
But then.
Sitting at that table, the emo sitting at that table, the jocks sitting at this table, the white rappers and the black rapper guys sitting over there with their hoodies and whatever sitting at that table, the normal kids that nobody cares about at this table, the nerds. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Kids trying to find descriptors to say, look how unique I am while still fitting it into a group. Let me dye my hair weird color and get stupid holes put in my ears, even though that trend's dying out. Should have died out like 10 years ago. That has nothing to do with LGBT at all, or trans at all. They're not transitioning to anything. They're just saying, look what I'm wearing today. That means I'm neither a boy or a girl. Like, no, you're wearing clothes and you dyed your hair.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And
who cares?
And I think that was this week, or it might have been last week, where Tim Pool had a video where he was talking about this, and there was an article he was going through where it said hundreds of people who were transitioning stopped, and then they were being bashed by trans members of the community, calling them traitors.
Declare it, you are never allowed to go back on it. They will excommunicate you and treat. I saw one guy. I can't remember.
Well, the thing about that is, like, I thought it was supposed to be about what's good for the individual, and some individuals are considered trans even though they haven't had surgery or haven't had the hormone replacement, and that's fine. But apparently, being someone who is having gender dysphoria, and if you start hormone replacement therapy, you can't ever stop, and yet that's like they're like
this cult mentality.
Yeah.
They pat you on the back and they're all for your rights and your decision, and hey, this is you, great decision, come on in. You say one thing that they don't like, you're kicked out of the cult, and they don't care how you feel about it. They don't care if this was supposed to embody mostly how you feel as a person. They don't care. I've seen a ton of walk away videos and people who they're still gay, they're still trans, they just don't believe in that community because they've been ostracized. They got kicked out for saying, hey, what about this? You're not allowed to say that. Get out. You're not part of the LGBT.
Oh, yeah, and what's the recent one? ContraPoints. Kicked out for saying that, they said that they understand the people who talk about the non-binary and all that, but they're like, yeah, but for me, I'm transition from male to female. That has to be a binary because the transition. And ContraPoints was saying that for them, it's a 1-to-1, and was bashed by people saying, oh, there's all kinds of different spectrums, and to the point where they deleted their Twitter. Like, it was so overwhelming, and the cancel culture was so great that deleted the Twitter. Just way too radicalized.
They got hijacked by radicals, and now the regular LGBT community has lost their voice and no idea what to say about it.
Yeah, and ContraPoints wasn't saying that the other trans people weren't trans. At no point in any of the stuff that I saw was ContraPoints saying, you people are crazy for thinking that there's more than two gender. None of that. For some reason, ContraPoints was saying, I'm more traditional in this sense. And they're like, oh, how dare you be traditional? I don't think I don't know if the exact word was traditional, but I guess more of the, male and female. And you go from one to the other. That makes sense. That's like...
That used to be, if someone was trans, that's what the whole reason. They felt they were a man in a woman's body or vice versa.
Yeah. And from what I can tell, there was at no point where ContraPoints was saying, you people need to stop doing that or stop making up these new categories. From what I saw, they were talking about their personal view on it, and that was just their opinion. Like, that's too much for me. You guys can do that. For me, it only makes sense to go from one to the other, and there has to be set lines. You can't have this spectrum thing because then there's no way to cross. There's no way to transition if it's all a big blur. At what point do you stop being one thing and start being the other if everything is all mixed together?
Where I would say additionally, right now, I don't agree with it, but people who do want to transition are put on hormone blockers or, given the opposite hormone of what their body normally produces in mass. If you're only transitioning partway through the spectrum, do you need hormones? How do they regulate how many hormones? Or is it you just decide to start talking a little different, using extra words, becoming more, moving your hands around more? Is Beto trans? He flaps his hands around a lot. I don't know. Everyone's trans there then. You've moved from one point to another to say now I'm pansexual or I'm slime sexual or asexual or whatever. There's the 70-something different non-gendered, non-binary groups out there. They're all in transition all the time, so the whole thing is just trans, right? No.
Yeah. It ceases to become a valid definition because it's so vague, everybody fits in. It's gotten to the point where it's so broad, everything is included, and you're like, well, then what's the point, right? It's that phrase, like, if everybody is special, then no one is. You're like, if you've broadened the category to include everyone, that ceases to be a useful category and it goes away.
Correct. I mean, that's like when the Boy Scouts now have to let anybody in. It is no longer the Boy Scouts.
I think they actually just changed their name to Scouts, but
yeah. But their enrollment rate dropped substantially. They're losing a ton of money. The Scouts are kind of done for because that was not the purpose of the Scouts.
All right. So we're gonna. Okay, it's 8:11. We're gonna move on to the next thing. Trying to get to the green new meal by 8:30. So we'll try to get the next few things knocked out in about 20 minutes here. Okay. All right. So this is Rashida Talib. Dude, this is like. Okay. You can hear this, right?
On page 3. Anybody look like? You said yes, no?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not. You know what? And also, analysts need to be African Americans, not people that are not. Because let me tell you, no, it happens all the time.
No.
It's true. I mean, I think non-African Americans think African Americans all look the same. I've seen it even on the House floor. People calling Elijah Cummings John Lewis and John Lewis Elijah Cummings, and they're totally different people. I'm just saying. Well, I see it all the time, and I love them because they like go along with it.
Well, I try.
Oh yeah, I guess you got to play the through.
I know.
Trained.
I know.
Regardless of race, regardless of gender.
Yeah, that's the correct response to that. Okay, wow.
He's talking to two black guys.
Yeah.
And they're both staring at her like, what are you talking about? What does race have anything to do with us doing our jobs?
Okay, so she's talking about analysts should be people of color, or she talks about, I think, let me rewind that and use the exact phrase she did, because...
So also, analysts need to be African Americans.
No, she doesn't say people of color. She says African Americans.
Specifically.
Yeah, specifically African Americans, and she said people who aren't think all of them look the same. Rashida Talib is not African American. She's basically saying, I think all black people. That's why I was like, dude, you what? Did you not obviously didn't think about what she was saying?
Yeah. So
because she's saying everybody who isn't African American thinks all African Americans look alike, and I'm like, oh, so, but what I haven't heard anybody talk about is like, what the hell does that matter? This is facial face detection software.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. This clip is because Detroit is employing facial recognition software.
Yeah.
Once it thinks it made a connection and says, hey, these two faces are similar enough, check it out, it then alerts an analyst.
Mm-hmm.
That analyst has to compare the two pictures and go by a checklist and say, is this a potential suspect? Is this a potential match? They don't leave it up to the computer system. Yeah. Then the police chief clarified that later on in another interview, explaining how they do it. That analyst has to go get another peer review before they can even bring it up to their chief inspector to sign up. It's a 3-person check. It doesn't matter who the initial analyst is. He said the analysts don't look at skin color. The facial recognition software doesn't look at skin color. They do measurements on nose. That's what it does. Skin color has nothing to do with anything, and our analysts are trained to look for facial measurements and symmetry and proportions.
And the funny thing is about facial recognition software right now has more of a problem identifying Asians than it does distinguishing Africans. The problem right now that facial recognition software has is that too many Asian people look alike and have very similar features. That's what they're that is like now, there are people with similar features that facial recognition software that would be African American that would probably like, oh hey, that's not the same guy, it may look like it but the software got it wrong sort of thing. There are more instances of that happening amongst Asians when it comes to facial recognition. Although, if you look at the statistics, the crime tends to happen more among members of the African American population.
Basically, what she's saying is African Americans are the only ones that pay attention to African American faces. Everybody else is a racist and can't tell the difference between who they're looking at. So she goes and cites some obscure somebody that made a mistake, or they weren't paying attention.
And
sometimes you just mix people's faces up when you're thinking one guy, and then I meant this guy. That happens. People do that, but that's why they're analysts, and then there's a backup analyst that has to verify, and then that gets signed off by whoever's in charge of the analyst.
Yeah, and then the other thing is,
software trying to make a match.
Yeah, so if what she's saying is true, right, that they have white analysts who are misidentifying people, they would see that in the arrests, right? They would have a huge spike in false arrests. Like, oh, our percentages, like, we arrested, 100 people, and of that 100, our analysts got it wrong 50% of the time. Okay, we need to change something about how that we're doing our procedure, because that's an unacceptable failure rate. But what they're seeing right now is like, oh yeah, we're the number of people that we arrest versus the number of people that we bring charges against. Yeah, we got a pretty good track record right now. I don't think there's.
Well, the police chief, I believe it was a Fox interview, or maybe it was on Tucker. I think it was on Tucker Carlson, and he came out and he said his entire department is very pro using this software because their arrest record have been a lot more accurate.
Yeah. If it's increasing the arrest records, then the race of the analyst doesn't matter at all. Like that, it's been accounted for.
Well, it makes the arrest faster. It gets them higher rates of capturing criminals because now they got software monitoring a lot of different networks, a lot of different cameras, where you can't have an analyst monitoring every camera all the time. This just helps make an initial, hey, here's a possibility, and then their analysts are trained, and their entire department is on board with this.
Yeah. Like, how is she still in Congress after something like this? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because she basically was saying there is an inherent bias that cannot be resolved with software or training or anything else. There's an inherent bias in people who are not African American, and they just shouldn't be able to have the job because there's nothing we can do to stop that.
Yeah,
that's absolutely insane. Like, well, the way she phrased it also puts her in that group. But even if that was a misstatement, but even the idea is that, hey, if you're not African American, there's nothing we can do to help to stop you from being racist or, nonsense. But that kind of got I saw that and I was like, okay, yeah, we can't talk about the Communist Manifesto. We got to talk about that. And then all this rest of this stuff started to happen this week. I'm like, yeah, dude, it just the crazy keeps piling on. Here's something else that happened this week. So I don't think we talked about this last week, but the ADLS lumped the OK hand signal as a hate symbol.
Yeah, how did that happen?
I don't know, but the OK. But here's a Universal Orlando fires Despicable Me actor for making OK hand gesture linked to white power. They do that in the movie.
This has always meant, hey, A-okay. Everything's okay. Or it means three-pointer.
Yeah. Minions mumble and make hand signs, and one of the ones that they do is the OK hand sign.
Never has that been associated with white power until a 4chan joke came out saying, whoa, look, white power. No.
And then there's pictures going along with this. They've got Obama making the OK hand signal. They've
there's entire crowds of people on amazing 3-point shot. You can see most of the crowd. It's what.
It is the single most recognizable hand gesture in the world.
They use it in every country. It means okay everywhere.
Okay and Coca-Cola are the two most widely spread words in the world. Okay. Every culture recognizes this as okay. I guess all the major ones. There might be some, kind of like obscure ones that don't have much interaction. But go anywhere in the world, you can say okay. You can say okay to people at an airport, regardless of whatever language they're from, they will most likely respond, hey, okay. It's kind of, okay and Coca-Cola. Every major country in the world knows both of those words. They may not know hello. They may not know, some, I guess, like yes and no, because a lot of other languages have their own versions of that. Okay is almost worldwide, like universal.
None of this makes sense. I mean, when we were growing up, there was more news about, like, the Crips and the Bloods, and they each had their different hand signals. Yeah. And there were guys, that whole West Side hand signal.
Yeah, West Side, East Side.
Right. If people are doing that at work, those are recognizable as, hey, that's potentially could be referring to turf wars or whatever. How could okay be put on there because someone made a joke about it and said,
I don't know.
White power.
I have no idea. It's...
And the Anti-Defamation League have lost their minds. They no idea what they're talking about. Not reliable whatsoever.
Yeah, and kind of a little side note, PewDiePie was he reached his 100 million, and he was like, yeah, it's to celebrate. A part of the celebration was he was going to give 500,000 to a charity. The charity he originally chose was ADLS prior to the announcement of the OK hand signal. And then people were talking about, like, dude, PewDiePie, you don't understand. ADLS is out of their minds. And so he withdrew that and says he's going to donate that to another charity, sometime in the future. Like, he's going to come up with something else. But he's like, yeah, I didn't really do much research. Somebody suggested them. I looked at it and said, oh, they fight against racist stuff. Okay, I've been accused of that in the past. He was accused by the ADLS. They were one of the organizations saying that he was racist for using the N-word.
Yeah,
but so he's and then because that was my initial thought is like as soon as the OK was added to their, I'm like, dude, PewDiePie, I don't know if you realize you just dodged a bullet.
Yeah, if you're gonna donate,
that'd be 50,000 to these clowns.
Donate to something that is just universally beneficial, like cancer research. Or
United Way or the Red Cross or something like that.
Shelters, things like that, where you know where the money's going and you're definitely helping out. Don't go to political parties or these activist hack groups.
Yeah, it'll backfire on you, and that would be 50,000 down the drain, so they could say that the peace sign is now racist.
Just give cancer research. That's probably one of the best things you can do.
All right,
let's fight that.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure we just need to elect Joe Biden, and then all cancer will be cured.
Oh, that's right. That's the one positive thing why I'm considering him.
Because he promised to cure cancer if elected. All right. Next. All right. Speaking of people who say stupid things trying to get elected, here's a little video clip of Kamala Harris. Oh, all right. I don't know. Yeah, and then look at her face, just kind of like, wait a minute, what did I just hear? Holy moly, dude! I don't know if that was a troll or what, but
I don't. It's gotta be. They weren't understanding what she asked and yelled it out.
Yeah. It's hard to tell if that was somebody who actually supports Harris and thought that they were responding with the correct thing. But
well, the way she phrases it, if you're not 100% paying attention, it kind of sounds like, is America ready for that? And so it sounds like she's talking about something negative, and you'd be like, no, they're not ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, because she said it kind of like at a negative, like, are you guys ready for that? It's like are you guys ready for that? It's not the excited, like, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
She turned around. Yeah, right. She's ridiculous. Also, recently, this week, she sent a letter to Twitter. Specifically, trying to ban Trump's Twitter account, which just went through a lawsuit
to make sure that he couldn't block anybody.
amendment to block anybody. What gives her the power to say just remove the account entirely? How does that?
I don't know, but dude, her campaign was torpedoed by Tulsi Gabbard, and she's been desperately grasping for some kind of
always thinking,
and it just gets worse and worse for her. So she's desperate for attention, desperate to find something that.
She also shot herself in the foot because she tried to bash Biden for not being pro-busing, and it turns out nobody was pro-busing. It's a horrible plan. And later, after the fact, she said herself she wasn't really pro-busing, right? Just the fact that he was against it and didn't want to sit and discuss it at least or something. Like he was attacking him.
Yeah.
She has no platform.
Yeah.
She's just trying to go out and present this. I'm hip and cool with everybody. There was a meme going around where they were asking her like 20 questions, and every answer was Bob Marley. So, what kind of music do you listen to? Bob Marley. Oh, what's your favorite song? Bob Marley. Bob Marley. It was just that was her only answer. So I saw a meme going around about that.
All right.
No real answer. She just fake person.
And so this week, more than any other, has kind of exemplified the next thing that we're going to talk about. I don't know if this was actually in the show notes or if this was something anyway. Because everything aside from the Joker that I talked about in the stream is just like, the absurdity has gone beyond anything that anyone could have ever expected. And it's really given parody sites a run for their money. And Babylon Bee is aware of this. So, unable to compete with reality, Babylon Bee founder starts real news site. Dude.
That's pretty awesome.
Oh, dude, and it's so true. It like everything this week it's you cannot tell the difference between parody and reality because everything is so insane and stupid, and we got politicians making outright racist claims. We've got dude, it's the clown world is not descriptive enough for the reality we live in.
Yeah. Even Congress, they are just becoming a giant parody. Well, mostly on the Democrat side. There are some Republicans that you're kind of like, all right, you guys are just two guys fighting on. It's like Hatfields and McCoys just fighting back and forth. Nobody even knows why anymore.
Yeah. Oh man. And okay, so it's just about 8:30. I think I've got. Oh wow. Okay, I did really good because the next story is is the main thing I wanted to talk about, and this is at this point in the week, I was like, dude, this is gonna be the best. This is the funniest week I think I've had the entire year. And then this bombshell drops. Okay, here's an Ocasio-Cortez's town hall. Video started. Yeah, video started when it was loading.
For much long because of the climate crisis. We only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you. You're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. And you are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Dude.
We'll go ahead. Okay. No, we'll go ahead. It's so
Man.
No. Yeah, no.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it for a bit, but wow. So, and Are you there? Hang on a sec. What?
Yeah.
I'm getting some weird audio feedback right now. Anyway, yeah. So you can see the reaction of everybody kind of around her, is kind of like, wait, what did I just hear? But AOC is trying to be, calm the situation down. And there's still more to the clip, but there's something Tucker Carlson pointed out, but there's also something a lot of other people were kind of...
Thank you. So I think...
Oh, I guess before I get into that, this person, I don't think is actually an AOC supporter and is actually this insane.
Oh, that's obviously a troll.
Yeah, that was my initial response, was like, yeah, that's...
Babies.
Yeah, and you can see... Well, okay, here's the scary thing. Right underneath it, it's like, some people are speculating it's an act. What do you think? 52% say yes, 48 say no.
Yeah, that's the scary thing, is half the people watching can't tell if this is real or not.
So, my initial reaction was, yes, I thought this is a troll. This is somebody who snuck into her town hall meeting. They combined Greta and the was it Polish, or the whatever that study was where the guy was advocating cannibalism, right? That scientist that was advocating cannibalism, and just kind of mashed it together in the most hysterical whatever they could think of. That seems what's going on here to me. And I've got more later on to kind of confirm that. And I think that's also what Tim Pool ended up kind of, being like, yeah, this person's probably a troll. Tucker Carlson said, I don't know. So Donald Trump Jr. said, yeah, that sounds like a typical AOC supporter. But again, is that him mocking AOC supporters, or did he actually think this person was legitimate? That's a little unclear. But Trump's response was, yeah, AOC is a whack job, and then just moved on.
I don't know that story.
But, so this seemed like just an epic troll here.
Or she's crazy.
Yeah. But here,
that doesn't seem like the right kind of crazy. She had the shirt and everything printed out, and then when she's getting ready to unveil it, takes her jacket off.
Yeah.
That's a troll.
Yeah. So the rest of the clip I'm going to play here for a second, just because AOC's response.
Yeah, no, so one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years. But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope. We are never beyond hope. Okay?
Yeah. So, I mean, granted, that's a typical kind of politician response, but at no point does she ever say, whoa, no, we're not eating babies. That's
the very first thing out of your mouth is, ma'am, nobody's gonna eat babies. Not gonna happen.
Yeah,
that's not a solution to anything.
Yeah, that should not. Yeah, it's a. Maybe it's an emergency. Maybe it's something we need to act on. That's not an option. Let's just remove that from the table. No, that should not be a consideration whatsoever. That should have been but that never happened.
Couple of things with the video. That's got to be a troll.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no doubt that person is a troll. They let her even sit there for a little while after. So, if it's a troll, or if it's somebody that's extremely mentally unstable and just believes the world is going to end in a few months, if you're going to be putting on a town hall presentation, you have to show you're sane enough to say, yeah, I appreciate your comments. Nobody's eating babies. That's not a solution. That will never be a solution. So, I agree we need to do something about the climate, and AOC kind of did mention that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of the audience, there's nobody standing up. There's no one saying, hey, lady, what are you talking about? No one looks like they're ready to argue or say this is a horrible, disgusting idea. There's one or two people sitting there kind of nodding like, interesting.
Yeah.
It's why?
So, again, I think this is a troll, and I think this troll is absolutely brilliant because it forced them into a corner. This backed them up to because they've been going on and on about how devastating and how terrible, and we need to start acting immediately to stop climate change. Because they've been giving that rhetoric so long, this troll backed them into the corner because AOC, that she said there's time in this, she cannot downplay how devastating climate change is, because doing so undermines the entire argument. So she's got to say, "Oh, we have time. There's stuff."
The last 2 years.
Yeah.
Last year and a half.
It's because they've been pushing how terrible it is and how immediate it is so long. They can't backpedal. They've given themselves no wiggle room. So someone can come out and make outlandish claims, and even then she's kind of like, "Oh, I can't actually say that's not an option, because if it's the end of the world, there's nothing off limits. If it's the end of the world, everything's on the table."
Yeah. Okay, think of it this way. I don't know. Did you ever watch that 2012 movie?
Yeah. Where they outrun the Ice Age, yeah. Or no, that was Day After Tomorrow. No. 2012 was, John Cusack, yeah.
John Cusack, right? And he gets wind that the climate, where there's going to be just a major catastrophe that's going to almost wipe out mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So he ends up following some Russian, I don't know if he's like a bureaucrat or just a really rich guy, somehow tailing him, and they fly out to China, and all the country's major governments have been coordinating for years, building these giant parks, but they did not tell the rest of the public, because there's no way they can save the rest of the public.
Yeah.
But you can see them helicoptering in animals and giraffes and these massive boats, and they've made it to where you can survive on these boats for months or years even. That's what would happen if everyone thought the world was going to end in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because they had information the whole world's going to flood because of some solar flares. It wasn't due to, pollution and stuff. It was something with the sun that was out of our control.
Yeah.
If we thought the Earth was going to end in 10 years and this was the only way to save the human race, that would be the solution. People would be jumping right on it. You got people sitting out, talking in Congress, talking out on the news. Yeah, we got to do something in the next, 11 or 12 years, or it's all going to be irreversible. And yet you walk outside, everything seems the same. You'll look at climate change, at least what we say is climate change for the last couple of decades, hasn't really changed much at all. Weather patterns, storm frequencies, storm severities, nothing has changed in the last 100 years that's of substantial note.
So one thing, a little caveat, or I guess an additional thing that not a lot of people know, or not a lot of people talk about when they talk about that, the number of deaths due to climate disasters has been it has gone down consistently year over year. It is same thing with crime rates. It's been going down exponentially because we're building structures to protect us from the elements. Deaths from freezing, deaths from heat, deaths from storms, insanely low compared to what they were even 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, there used to be on the news, if there was a power outage or there was rolling brownouts and stuff, you'd hear of dozens of, especially elderly people passing away because of the heat. Now, you might hear of 2 or 3 in your city.
Yeah.
And that's still bad. We don't want anyone to pass away because there was rolling brownouts or shortage on electricity or their AC went out. But it's much easier to get to a cooler environment or a warmer environment when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a news report from 1900 on Galveston, Texas. A hurricane hit just Galveston.
Mm-hmm.
Destroyed a bunch of the city, wiped out over 1,000 people.
Yeah, it
might have been 1,300 or something. It devastated that town, almost crushed it. That was back in the 1900s. We don't know the severity because they didn't have that severity rating system back then. They couldn't track the weather like that. And then we have Hurricane Dorian that hits multiple islands, comes up the entire coast, or things like Sandy when that hit a few years ago.
Yeah.
That storm front. There were people that died. It's in the hundreds over multiple states, not one city.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still bad. We're not downplaying their deaths and saying, hey, you know what? Oh, well, it's 300 people. But that's a fifth of what happened 100 years ago over multiple states. hundreds miles more covered by a Category 4 storm. So we are getting better at understanding how to survive these storms, these things that just naturally occur.
Yeah. And hopefully one day we get that number down to 0, where nobody dies from a natural disaster. But as long as we keep doing what we're doing and reducing the number of people, or the number of deaths on these tropical storms, we'll eventually get there, or as close as actually possible.
Concrete foundations, concrete buildings, rebar, things to keep our structures steady and in place that can resist high winds.
All right. And so I am 99% certain that person was a troll, and this kind of like if you're part of the 52 or 50 or 48% that doesn't think it's an act, like this kind of should help solidify it, because oh man, I don't know why it keeps doing that. It keeps starting the video without sound.
Emissions are the greatest harm to our climate and our
same shirt as the other lady.
We need to get serious about doing the numbers. Who are the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide emissions? And I think you know that, honestly, we're not the greatest problem.
Is it the children?
Logically, yes. I mean, think about the numbers. Just consider the numbers for a minute. Okay, if you have one fewer children, that will have a greater impact on carbon dioxide emissions than any other lifestyle choice that you make. But how many fewer children would you not have? 3, 4? It's not good enough.
So you're saying we should eat the children?
Absolutely. We're taking orders now that can be fulfilled for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, see that right there? It's like, wait a minute. At first you're kind of like, this guy could be a nut job. But
we will only succeed in supporting our organization and the planet support from you.
We're taking orders to be fulfilled by Thanksgiving.
Consider 1 a week. We can get orders fulfilled by Thanksgiving, and we have a variety of options for you.
Does Mark Carney eat babies too?
Probably.
Oh, how does he suggest preparing them then?
I don't think he does it himself, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for answering these.
So this guy, like, there's the extreme possibility that he might be this crazy, but based on his answers, like the way he's responding, he's not going, shouting over the top. He's just kind of matter-of-factly, and the way he's dodging the questions and kind of twisting it, me like, children, and how many fewer children are you gonna have? Like, what, 3 or 4? So obviously that's not fast enough. I'm like, wait, what? How is that obviously not fast enough? How did you just? That's where I was like, yeah, this is definitely a brilliantly planned troll move.
Yeah.
And it's not just one person on their own. It seems like there's a group of these. But even this whoever posted this thought this was legitimate. So I'm kind of like, how did you see this and not think immediately?
Yeah, taking orders for Thanksgiving, that's legitimate. That's not even legal in any country.
No. But after that, the internet just took this and ran with it.
Well, okay, so here's the funny thing with that.
Picture.
A baby taco?
Yeah. Oh man, dude, it was National Taco Day. Oh man, and
we're gonna t-shirt says that Taco Tuesday, and it just says that.
And then it's got to have hashtag Green New Meal because there's an entire trend. Green New Deal. Like this is the funniest thing. Oh man. Oh. Dude, like there's just.
I would say beyond the obvious trolling and that it's not believable, unfortunately, this has to do with human population control.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only proposed idea right now that's going to drop carbon emissions to net 0 is population control. So even though, completely absurd, doesn't make any sense. They're closer to a solution than anything that AOC or the Democrats have put out by climate change.
Okay, so yeah, and so this thread has a bunch of stuff, but a lot of people have been posting images of Moloch, who's a Canaanite god that ate babies.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, that's the original hipster. I was eating babies before it was cool. There's the Austin Powers getting my belly like a little baby getting my belly. Dude, it was like a baby in a... Dude, like you could spend all day on this thread is the best thing that has happened to the internet in years. Oh, man.
I completely support the Green New Meal.
Yeah.
Oh, man, they got the Swedish chef.
Yeah, dude, this is insane.
Oh, I've seen that picture. Is that Kronos?
Yeah, Kronos eating this thing.
He had the right idea. Climate change.
Oh, dude. I wash my food before I eat it, and it's Nirvana cover. Oh, dude. I'm trying to think. There was a couple more in here that scrolled through earlier, but it's just. Oh. Hey, this is. Oh, dude. This is what the internet was made for. Okay, yeah, so, and people have been making references to Soylent Green, because of the obvious, like, you know, Green New Deal, Soylent Green, what was the other one that they were, oh man, dude, this thread is like Reddit on steroids. I looked through this thing like 4 times, and it just gets funnier every time I see it. Oh man. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna post.
Oh, Planned Parenthood with the drive-thru. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, it was Planned Parenthood with the drive-thru. Oh, and people are talking about opening a fast food restaurant. Yeah. Like, yeah, Planned Parenthood's gonna be the supplier for their food. Like, they've got to make a Chick-fil-A version for leftists called Baby Cakes. Oh, yeah, so here... Oh, mine is actually on here, okay. I was just about to switch over to link to it, but... Okay, so Alice Smith is kind of like a super right-wing kind of, and like, yeah, 1984 was prophetic in warning about authoritarian socialist state. Harrison Burgon cautioned us on the dangers of egalitarian hatred of excellence. Yeah, there's a amazing, what's it called, 1916 or something like that. Little like short film with starring Armie Hammer and what's his name? The Lord Commander from the Game of Thrones. There's this little kind of like short film based on that story from Kurt Wagner. Anyway, sorry. Really good stuff. Like, it's a really interesting story where all of the people who are successful, like all the people who are strong, have to wear weights. Anybody who's smart gets a device put on their head where it sends a ringing in their ears so they can't concentrate. Ballet dancers are shackled for their performances because it's basically like everybody who can succeed is brought down to the lowest stand. Yeah, it's
equal. You have to bring everyone down because there's no way to bring bottom up.
Yeah. So then she said, and so how prescient is Soylent Green gonna prove this year to come? And then so my contribution was, I'm starting to think Green Eggs and Ham wasn't referring to animal products. Dude, this is the best trend ever. But yeah, that.
That was pretty messed up.
Oh. All right, I think I'm done with these for now. Oh, but dude, this is I it's the troll that has saturated everything. It's green new meal that. I hope that's that anytime Ocasio-Cortez talks about anything to do with climate change, people just immediately start laughing because they're thinking about Green New Deal when it comes with.
That's what's gonna happen. I mean,
it's
why does that caught on? That troll hurt her Green New Anything campaign.
Yeah, because you can't think about Green New Deal without thinking baby snacks. Baby food takes on a whole new meaning. It's just like there's a bunch of stuff in here that's just although a bunch of this is just them reposting the same video, but
how did that lady keep a straight face?
I don't know.
Sounded sincere.
Yeah, and this is like Copper Cab level of trolling. Man, it's bravo to that young lady.
Yeah, I would have been cracking up before I could even stand up and start talking. Wearing a stupid shirt.
Yeah.
Oh.
What? Wait, that's a real album cover?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember.
What?
Why.
Like, was that a photo? That can't be the actual album, right? That's.
No, they added in meat, but the baby doll parts are real.
Why would the?
No, wait.
Okay, so the original didn't have the meat?
No, the original, never mind, it had the meat. I just didn't remember the meat being there. I thought it was just baby doll parts.
What?
Yeah.
Why? Yesterday and that's the album. Yeah, so it's got Yesterday, Day Tripper, We Can Work It Out. Like, what does that have in? What?
I don't remember why that album cover was there.
Insanity. I mean, I know they were on drugs, but man, that's. It's like the two main things the internet is full of is baby pictures and food, and the only way you could possibly top this is to find some way to throw cat pictures in there. Oh, it's all right. That's just scrolling through here. You'll find like
Trump saving the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of good memes in here. I'm surprised PewDiePie hasn't made.
Baby back ribs burger.
Oh, was that? Oh, yeah.
What it said on there, baby back.
It's not talking about cow. All right. I don't get that one. I'm a hungry alligator. What? Oh. Yeah, I try to see if I can find a couple more that are. Probably should move on to the next thing because it's already almost 9 o'clock. Green New Meal. It's so perfect. It's like it's similar to the Keck and Pepe, because like Jordan Peterson was pointing that out, how Pepe started off as just a cartoon frog, and there was memes about him, like the feels good man, and then it morphed into something else, and then people started talking about Keck, and Keck is like, because LOL is laugh out loud in English, and in Korean they use KEK and to represent laugh out loud, and Keck is some kind of frog of mischief, and all of these things just kind of interweave together to make this like perfect storm of meme that is just this is kind of the same thing. It's like all of these independent are just coming together into like this, like, dude, it's the no one could have thought this would.
Yeah, wasn't Keck short for Kekistan?
No, it was Kekistan was named after Keck. So that was an after the fact.
I gotcha. I didn't know which one came first.
Yeah, Kekistan came after, but probably didn't know about the Keck being a frog god of mischief. But that was kind of like this. There's independent people doing things, and they all kind of merged to sync up together amazingly. And Pepe became the symbol for kind of right wing trolls, or I guess maybe trolls was not the right. Yeah, because what does Sargon say? Shitlords. Yeah, so it's kind of it's kind of the same thing. It's like, yeah, just people mocking the left. It became like this the rallying cry or the banner or.
It's mocking these extremely radical ideas,
and this is like the same thing, mocking all the climate thing. And now this is something everybody can get on board, because there may have been people who are right wing who didn't agree with the Green New Deal, but everybody can rally behind it and be like, yeah, babies. Yeah, no supporting of that. Like, Eat the Babies has become, even if the crazy leftists didn't come up with it, it's stuck to them. It stuck to them like glue, and there's no way they can separate themselves from that. And it's gonna be that galvanizing thing again. Anytime somebody comes up with climate change, this is gonna be what they're thinking about, and it. Alright, I think I'm done with that and ready to move on to the next thing. Alright. So, that was the main thing, is just that Green New Meal and eating babies. That's a highlight of my week.
Yeah, that was pretty hilarious.
Alright. So, the next thing, this one is it's kind of a little more somewhat feel good, but sort of not. I'm going to try to... So this is the last thing I'll talk about as kind of a closer. So this is something that happened a while ago. So I'm not sure if you remember who Amber Geiger is. I didn't remember the name either. I had to look it up.
Yep.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have linked to it already, but whatever. Babylon Bee. This is a Babylon Bee article where, so it's adding a little bit of levity to the situation. It says, legal experts warn Amber Geiger verdict could set dangerous precedent of police officers not being allowed to shoot anyone they want. So the story was, she was off duty, out of uniform, enters an apartment. There's a man in the apartment eating ice cream. She pulls out her service weapon. So she's out of uniform, but still, officers usually carry their service weapon with them, even in plain clothes, and fires upon the man and kills him, because she thought he was an invader in her apartment, and she was on the wrong floor.
Yeah.
So
her neighbor ran up above her.
Yeah. Her upstairs neighbor, she opens an apartment thinking it's her apartment, shoots the guy who is eating ice cream and watching TV. Now, granted, the Babylon Bee introduction is kind of adding a little bit of levity here because they're talking about, because she was found guilty. Thankfully, like, there's so many people that say, oh, cops are never found guilty, you know, there's always, like, no, this is clear cut. Like, even if this woman was not found guilty, this is not a person you want being a police officer.
No, because it's just obvious she's not paying attention to anything around her. It's not her couch. It's not her living room.
Yeah.
There's nothing in that apartment that looks like hers. She just saw the guy and thought it was hers and didn't blank out and just started shooting.
Yeah. The man is not lunging for her, not threatening her. He's eating ice cream. Oh, it's not like she can say, oh, I thought he had a weapon or something. Like, dude, if he was a robber who broke into your place and is just kind of making himself at home, you got the drop on him and you have your gun out. You don't start shooting. Like, at no point in this scenario, if you were called to this house as part of your job, as a domestic thing, and you open the door and this guy was eating ice cream, she pull out the gun, start shooting. Like, this is that is absolutely insane. The way that her initial response is, oh, there's somebody that's like, anybody looking, I'm glad that the court case went the way it did, because I don't know all of the details of the story, but I'm like,
that's pretty much all the details.
At no point could she argue self-defense.
I think she just got shocked, assuming someone had broken in their apartment and was sitting there and didn't.
Yeah.
Her brain just switched off, and that was her first reaction, to start firing. That's dangerous.
Yeah, so she got 10 years for that. She's going away for a long time, and that's what should happen when a cop legitimately doesn't do their job correctly. And I know she was not following any of her law enforcement training.
No, that would not have happened.
Yeah.
Also point out, they were trying to argue manslaughter, but the judge went with murder, which is why she got the 10 years. It's not an accident. It wasn't negligence. It was 100% avoidable.
Yeah.
100%.
So, I mean, I could understand possible seeing a charge of manslaughter if she was a civilian who had was armed and made this mistake, but cops are trained to be prepared for this. Like, there is the lethal use of force model. And as someone who is trained on the use of the firearm, trained on how to subdue suspects, trained on analyzing the threat of a situation, hey, they go through scenarios where people act out the aggressor and the officer has to respond. Like, oh, what would you do in this situation? What is the appropriate response? Now, granted, there is a range of things that fall within the reasonable, but if your first instinct is to pull out a gun and start shooting instead of saying, hey, stop or I'll shoot, that's stop or I'll shoot. Hey, put your hands in the air. Like, if that's not your first response as an officer, you should not have been issued a firearm in the first place. And I wonder what's going on at that police department. And so what occurs to me, which I haven't seen anybody talking about this, she was probably intoxicated or on some kind of substance.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
To just completely abandon all firearm safety and all lethal use of force training that she should have had as an officer. That to just completely out the window as soon as she saw somebody that she wasn't expecting, because that is what she should be experiencing on a daily, or maybe not daily, but on a regular basis as a police officer, is being caught off guard.
Yeah, being vigilant and trying to make the right decisions.
Like, you get put into situations where, hey, that was unexpected. A suspect just came running out of the store. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, they should be, I mean, granted, not on guard all the time, because that's insane. but they should be trained to the point where their initial reaction isn't just start firing randomly. No, there's always the stop or I'll shoot. I mean, you don't fire off a warning shot, but you do give a verbal declaration of your intent to make the person stop, because you say stop or I'll shoot. Unless the person is intent on killing you or is out of their mind, they're like, dude, freeze. Yep. Stop or I'll shoot. Okay, I'm stopping. I don't want to get shot today. I like living.
Yep. Now, there is some additional info on this story. I don't know if you saw the family of the man that was shot was there.
Yeah. So there's I don't know if I've got that pulled up. Yeah. So I don't have the picture of the brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to just talk about that for a second here.
Yeah. So the brother was basically giving a final statement, just kind of on behalf of the family, as this judgment was being passed down. And apparently, that is a Christian family.
Yeah.
And you can tell the family was hurt, and the brother was having trouble talking. But during his final statements, he said that he forgave her, and that the man who was shot would have done the same thing if it was the brother instead of him, because they understand it should have never happened. They understand she should have never just, got caught off surprise, and the first instinct was to shoot. Mm-hmm. But they also understand she made bad judgment.
Yeah.
She didn't walk upstairs and open the door intending to shoot somebody, or, it wasn't like a premeditated.
Yeah, it wasn't premeditated. Yeah.
It wasn't premeditated. It was just a horrible mistake she made. And yeah, there you've got a picture. He asked the judge, is it okay if I approach and give her a hug?
Yeah.
And in today's society where everyone is, cops shooting blacks, and they always seem to get away with it, and everyone thinks that there's this racial issue, we get a proper sentencing for a bad crime. And then we also see from the black family that you can still forgive when it's a bad mistake. The brother's life is gone, but it wasn't premeditated. It wasn't just an intentional murder. It was just a bad decision. And so they're smart enough to see that. They kept to their Christian values, and their primary concern is with those who are still alive, and that she can eventually get over it. And they advocated, search for God.
Yeah. So
I thought that was that was a very good thing to do, to drop tensions. So you're not going to see media coming out talking about white on black violence and stuff here, because that family is obviously not in support of that idea.
Yeah. And had the court case gone the other way, that there probably would have been riots and stuff like that. But so this is a situation where everything went the way it was supposed to, and in what is almost an exact counter of the sibling of the Milwaukee guy. Like, go there, burn down there. Here's a guy, and granted, the difference is that the officer was a female instead of a male. The officer was white instead of black. But those are kind of inconsequential differences. The only other major differences in this story was the victim and the victim's family was Christian. Like, had the family been had those two families switch places, right? Had this family been the family of the Milwaukee guy who was shot, it's possible. I'm granted this is all speculation, so I can't prove. But had they come out and given a statement forgiving the officer for the thing, knowing the situation, there is a very good chance that the Milwaukee riots would not have happened. And had the two families switched roles, had the other family been in this court case, and had they been railing at this lady and all that sort of thing, we would have. It was a bad situation. Granted, the judge ruled against her and sort of thing. But had that family been, spitting venom at her and all that sort of thing, it would have caused maybe some media attention and all that sort of thing. There wouldn't have been a riot and burning down Dallas. It's kind of this weird situation where when the situation is possibly the worst it could be, Christianity, in my opinion, granted, I'd like to hear an argument against that if somebody else, some leftist or some atheist came across and was like, oh, no, that's just completely far-fetched. I'm like, I don't see how, because of his reaction in this situation to, like you said, just that it completely neutralizes the situation.
Yeah.
Had that happened in Milwaukee, a lot of people's lives, a lot of property, a lot of racial tensions would have been eased had the family reacted the same way as this family did. So this is, granted, I kind of want to end these streams on a little more upbeat, and so while it is down or upsetting that the guy died and that she, yeah, for all, like, I would have said murder as well. I wouldn't even get the manslaughter as, again, it's not even on the table in my mind because I know what officers are trained, because I had officer training. Our brother is in security forces for the Air Force, so he gets that training as well. We know what is expected of police officers. So to have one do this is insane. But the showing of compassion, showing of Christian values, and the forgiveness at play here, and the judge as well was also a part in this. I got that queued up here. So the judge who rendered the verdict did this after the sentencing and as the courtroom was winding down. So I don't know if you can. I don't remember if there's actually any audio. You can't hear what she's saying, but she's holding a book there, and that is a Bible that she is giving to the woman that she just sentenced to 10 years in jail. And she is going through the Bible and showing her scriptures, and then they hug. And you can't hear exactly what she's saying, because there isn't any audio. But yeah,
a bad situation, issuing the right judgment, but also trying to let her know you made a stupid mistake, but don't let it consume your life.
Yeah,
life's not over. Serve your punishment. Here is how you can do something better with your life and not be consumed with guilt and frustration and hatred. So they're not only looking out for the victim's family is on the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
They understand they're going to be traumatized. There's going to be grief. I think the brother even made statements like that. But they are equipped to handle that. They want to make sure she is as well.
Yeah.
I think for that bad of a situation, that's the proper way everything should have been concluded.
Yep. And it's nice to see that, because that's what I would kind of hope for every time the situation like this occurs. And it's like, granted, I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, religion is all superstitious, and it's like, if that's what it causes, if that's the superstitious, if it leads to things like this, yeah, give me that over atheism every day of the week.
In a civilized, healthy manner.
Yeah. If it can produce that, even if it's based on nothing. Now, granted, I think it's based on something fundamental to the universe, but even people who are devout atheists, like Stefan Monalou and I don't think Jordan Peterson is, well,
I think
his view on Christianity.
Outright that he's Christian. I think he's juggling the idea that it's possible, is what it sounds like. His interviews.
And I would say, even someone like Sam Harris, I am certain if they saw something like this, they wouldn't be like, oh, well, all religion is evil and complete. And I was like, dude, compare like like I said, the difference between Milwaukee and this situation. The main difference in how the family and how the public at large respond to the situation is largely due to religion. Like, there's a huge impact of religion on making sure it doesn't end up being, people storming the streets and smashing buildings and stealing stuff. It's religion. If religion has that much of an impact, there's something there. There's got to be something of value there. You can't throw it out and assume that everything's gonna be better without it. All right, it is 9:15. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Is there anything else that you wanted to?
No, I think that covers all the recent stories that I remember hearing about.
Yeah, dude, Green New Meal, man. That is gonna carry to 2020. I think that's gonna carry to, because AOC is not up for removal in 2020, but hopefully some of these other crazies on the leftist side. So so 2020 is not just about Trump. There's Senate seats, there's House of Representative seats up for grabs. And
we have something along with those lines. If you take a look at what Congress has been doing for the last 3 years, Democrats, especially in the House, have been on the war path.
Mm-hmm.
They have not passed a single useful bill. They haven't done anything at all.
Yeah.
This entire administration.
They're on their way out, man.
Impeach Trump. And if you look at what's happening right now, at least the last I heard as of Friday, Pelosi came out before the transcript was available for that call between Ukraine and Trump, and said they're going to start the
impeachment inquiry
proceedings. And from my understanding, what I've read so far, it's not official.
No, that's nothing.
They put it out on the news network. They said they subpoenaed some of these state representatives, the people who work directly under Mike Pompeo. But since this is not an official investigation, it was a formal letter asking for them to comply with an inquiry.
Yeah.
It is not a real subpoena, which means Pompeo and everybody on his staff and the president, everyone's completely and should, with their legal rights, say, okay, give me a minute to get everything prepared and contact their lawyer. Otherwise, we're going to have what they tried to do with Lewandowski, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are going to try and force perjury by rushing people in onto the stand, taking a formal statement, and then later saying, well, I didn't mean it quite like that, or I didn't have all the evidence. Perjury. Send you to jail. So they are trying to force people on the stand without a formal inquiry. And I've also, after doing some reading and finding out from other people, as soon as they launch a formal inquiry, the Republicans are allowed to start issuing subpoenas, investigating, which they do not want.
Yeah.
Right now, the Republicans are taking action because it is not a formal inquiry. They just said they're going to start a formal inquiry. So they are playing dirty, really dirty here.
Yeah.
This impeachment,
and it's going to bite them so hard in the ass.
Anything that he's done illegal. So this impeachment is just as bad as what they tried to railroad with Clinton. I'm not a Clinton fan, but honestly, I don't know about impeachment. That does not look good on our country. That doesn't look good for a democratically elected president, the voice of the people, and whoever happens to be in power in the House and the Senate decides, we don't like them, get rid of them, let's find anything. That's not the way our country should operate.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's any chance of impeachment going through, because it still has to, even if they start a formal inquiry and then they do decide to vote on impeachment, it still has to go to the Senate, which is Republican controlled.
Yeah.
And it's not going to fly.
Yeah.
So just pay attention to this nonsense. Watch what the Democrats are doing. They are basically throwing every single thing they can at Trump because they have nothing else going on. Biden's dropping in the polls. Warren doesn't really stand a chance, and all the other Democrats, potential nominees, they don't have a chance at all.
Yep. So more than likely, it's gonna be Warren versus Trump, and Warren Pocahontas doesn't stand a chance.
Nope.
All right. And one last little thing to end the stream on. This is awesome.
What?
I don't know, but that's
did
awesome.
Did they do it on purpose, or it just happened?
I don't know.
Because man,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like dude, that was pretty smooth, little guy. All right, and to anybody who ends up watching this stream, I will plan on doing this again next Monday. So, thanks for joining me, and hopefully it wasn't too cringy just hearing me laughing and scrolling through. But yeah, this week was amazing. All right, bye.